Assalamu alaikum viewers and everyone. $1 million question nowadays in Pakistan is that what is Pakistan's PM finally fighting against? This is a very important question, and everybody is astonished that what will be the result of the no confidence movement. Will the Pakistan's opposition succeed in toppling the government of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Imran Khan? And they're all against him, and they are doing everything they can, and everybody is just wondering that what will be the result. And especially this thing is causing a lot of instability in Pakistan, as well as it is a cause of something that brings up concerns, and everybody starts thinking about that. What finally is going to happen in future in Pakistan, that what kind of policies will be making, because we have seen that Shahbaz Sharif and the opposition, they are saying that we will make a couple of laws firstly, and we will do a couple of amendments, and then we will go for the next elections, and all the parties that are in the opposition of Pakistan currently, they will all make a national government, and then there will be transparent elections, and these transparent elections are something they are all desperate for, and they all just don't want Pakistan's military establishment and these kind of groups to leave their impact in Pakistan's election that have been a major cause of concern in Pakistani politics. And this is what is going on. So now the $1 million question that I want to talk about is that what is this thing that Imran Khan is fighting against? I think in Pakistan, if you even see that what was the ideology of Pakistan when it came into being in 1947 on 14th of August, the reason behind was to gain a homeland for the practice of Islam. This was the main ideology, and this is the national narrative of Pakistan as well. I don't want to give you plenty of narratives, but one narrative that I stand with is that there was a dialogue in the negotiations between Mr. Jinnah and Nehru, and they were, they were looking for different kind of setups that had to be practiced in India after England had to leave it. Britain had to leave it, but when they both of them didn't agree, then Mr. Jinnah thought that a different kind of setup in a different country will be better for him, and same was the thinking of Nehru. So this is how Pakistan came into being. But when Pakistan, all India Muslim League used the slogan of Islam, then finally Pakistan had to come into being in the name of Islam, and this is what has been the main thing of politics in Pakistan. Islam has always been cast by different groups, by establishment as well as by different political parties. Other than the slogan of Islam, another main thing that has been a major reason of couple of liberals and progressive being worried about is that there was a lot of uh, a lot of slogans and a lot of talking about one thing, that is the glory of the past of Muslims. And when we talk about the history, we talk about the wars, generals, commanders, people who fought wars and conquered other people's land for their own people. And this is what has been another major topic in Pakistan. History starts when Muhammad bin Qasim attacked Sindh, and afterwards. So there is a big scope for generals and commanders to gain power in Pakistan, and this is what happened in 1958 when first martial law was implemented in Pakistan by Mr. Ayub, who was the general at that time and head of Pakistan Army. And as a result, we saw that in 1977 Pakistan broke, and after that uh, the slogan that we should be using Islam as a tool to unite the people of Pakistan, and everybody thought that we should be making Pakistan one nation by the power of Islam. And another thing was to use force and violence to counter every sort of threat and external, threats and the things that can be. a threat for the existence of Pakistan. And Mr. Bhutto, he made a couple of groups who had to do political affairs, and they had to get the attention of the Afghan politicians. And these kind of games were started by Pakistan and its civilian government, as well as by its establishment in 1975. And after that establishment, the military generals, they arrested Mr. Bhutto and finally hanged him in 1979. And the martial law dictator of that time, Mr. Ziaul Haq, he also used the slogan of Islam, and it had been used for years in Pakistan. And everybody thought that should be making Pakistanis one nation through the power of Islam. This is the greatest catastrophe of Pakistan. This is the tragedy of our history, that we are making our people one nation by religion, and we think that we should be using force and violence to confront the external violence and external threats, etc. So the thing, and one concept, that India is a threat for the existence of Pakistan. They don't want Pakistan to exist. This is what has been said to people of Pakistan for years. This has been the history of Pakistan, and now you see that what Mr. Imran Khan says. He says, I want to make Pakistanis one nation through the power of Islam. He says, I want to make a government that would be an ideal Islamic government. And what is his ideal? His ideal is a 1400 years old tribal sort of government setup that was the best in its era, but can't work now in the 21st century. Another thing that Mr. Imran Khan is very passionate about, the uh, that we should be using religiosity to for the ethics and morality, that is declining in our youth very rapidly. This is one thing. And the man is worried about the whole nation, that this is going wrong, this is going wrong. He even does victim blaming whenever there are cases of rape. So when we see that people are threatened by other radicals, he says that women should be doing this and people should be doing this, and he always talks about values, etc. So you see that Mr. Khan is actually an emotional religious person, nothing else. He's just a romantic who always ignores the scientific research and philosophy and on ground realities. And he always thinks that there is a solution in his own philosophy, that is mostly the religious concepts. And another thing that he mostly talks about is that India is a threat for Pakistan. Although there are a couple of threats for Pakistan from India now, but this has been history as well. And many a times when Pakistan's civilian governments tried to negotiate the conflict with India, and they thought that we should be doing trade, etc., despite of all the issues that both the countries have. Our military establishment has always been a group that never wanted the relations to improve. And whenever it happened, they always defamed these politicians, mostly people like Mia Nawaz Sharif, and they always thought that these people have a lot of interests in India. And now Imran Khan says, I have no interests in India, so I always talk against them. And I know there is hatred everywhere right now, but he's cashing a very old tool that has been used throughout history as well. And another thing that Mr. Khan mostly talks about is that Pakistan's establishment, mostly military establishment, and the army of Pakistan is with me, and they cannot be against me. And when a DGISPR's spokesperson, he said that army is neutral nowadays. Mr. Khan said no, nobody can be neutral, and mostly animals are seen neutral. So people always stands with people who are right, and he never goes against. Such a person who is always right and is very honest and true, etc. So Mr. Khan obviously sees himself as an Amirul Mominin who has to, govern everything. He should be having all the powers, and he thinks that other than him, everything is wrong. He thinks, believes, and always says that every politician other than himself is very corrupt, and they exploit the resources of common people, the civilians. But these allegations have never been proved. This is the reason that I think this narrative of Mr. Khan that all the politicians are very bad and they are not good and they are corrupt, they are against the national interests, they are against the army, against establishment and against people. I think now this narrative is not being accepted by most of the people, and uh, the thing is that a ruler who is delivering on economic grounds is always accepted despite of his ideologies and whatever he thinks. In Turkey, we saw that Tayyip Erdogan, he got a lot of support from civilian people, and he is very popular there. Although he's a religious person who wants dictatorship and he uses the past glory of Ottoman Empire for his own purposes, but still people are giving him votes because he's delivering. Mr. Khan, he's ideologically very sick. He's a ultra religious and radical person who always ignores the facts and scientific researches, etc. And he's very traditional person, and this kind of person cannot be a ruler in 21st century. And he's not the solution of anything in this world, I think. But still, he's very popular among people because he's a celebrity, and but I think people are not gonna vote Mr. Khan now. And what Mr. Khan is fighting against is his own ignorance, his own lack of grip on information. He mostly gets and finds himself confused in the maps, etc. He even can have a bridge between Japan and Germany as well, and he says that both the countries have a lot of trade. Although we see that Japan is on the eastern side of Asia and Germany is in west, and both the countries have thousands of kilometers between the two. So he basically lacks in information. He has not read things very seriously, and he even I've seen Mr. Khan even lecturing scholars. This is very interesting thing that a person who doesn't find enough time to read newspapers even can find enough confidence and energy to lecture scholars. So I think Mr. Khan is basically fighting against himself. He should have worked on himself, but I think a person who gains a lot of public support and gets very famous among people cannot improve himself because he stands on the ideological grounds that are very famous among people, and he thinks that he's always right. And I think this is a big tragedy among our celebrities, etc., because these people get so influenced by their screen presence that they don't never try to improve themselves intellectually, as well as never they never analyze that what they are saying and what they are doing, and how the real politics and political affairs are going against their ideological things, etc. They are doing things that are not what they believe in, and there is a contradiction between the action and belief, and this is a catastrophe among our youth, as well as this is reflected very badly among the rulers. And I think this is his ignorance, this is his lack of information about himself and the world that Mr. Khan is fighting against.